Ever get that feeling, when you win an argument, but it feels like everyone lost? Even you.
I think we've all been there.
We're diving into that today. Why avoiding arguments might be the smartest thing you can do. And we're going way back for this one, to a classic. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, a classic, timeless.
Right. It's been around forever, but it's packed with insights that never go out of style, especially when it comes to handling disagreements.
What's so powerful about Carnegie's work, he goes right to the heart of it. He says, even when you're right, winning an argument, it can cost you.
Oh, tell me about it. In ways you don't always expect, too.
A strained relationship, a missed chance to actually work together, or even just that lingering feeling that it wasn't worth it.
That unease. You nailed it. It's like, yeah, you technically won the argument, but the peace treaty is a disaster.
Exactly.
Think about it at work, right? Like you score that point in a meeting, but then later, things get weird.
Happens all the time. And it usually comes down to this, right? Arguments. They stop being logical. They become about ego.
Totally.
We're so busy trying to prove we're right, we forget what actually matters.
Our brains, it's like they go into defense mode, and boom, we're lawyers for our own stubbornness, Even if maybe, deep down, we're a little unsure.
It's that emotional cost of conflict.
It's real.
It's not just the argument itself, it's how drained you feel afterward. Like you need a vacation from the conversation.
Okay, I feel attacked. I need to get better at dodging those energy vampires. But seriously, how do we actually avoid these arguments?
Right.
Without becoming a pushover, right?
Right. It's about skillful communication. That's what we get from the excerpts, Even with disagreement, you can be skillful.
So not just avoiding conflict, but handling it well.
Yes. And one of the best ways, shift from correcting to questioning.
Interesting.
Instead of telling someone they're wrong, which, come on, who likes that? Ask questions that help them rethink.
Okay, so less, nope, you're wrong, more like, what makes you say that? Or, help me understand your thinking here.
You got it. It stops feeling like an attack and feels more like you're inviting them to a conversation.
Right, exactly.
And that goes right into active listening, which, by the way, is not just waiting for your turn to speak. It means really trying to get their point of view.
Even if, let's be honest, sometimes it's hard you disagree with it.
You don't have to agree to listen. But when you do, it helps you see where you do need to push back effectively.
That's so true, because sometimes when someone's talking, I'm already planning my response in my head,
Yeah.
instead of really listening.
It's easy to do that. But finding that common ground, even a little bit, changes everything.
Oh, it makes a huge difference.
Even the smallest agreement, it lowers the tension. It shows you're not trying to run them over. You're trying to find something that works for everyone. And you know what goes a long way? Empathy.
Empathy. That's huge.
Instead of, that's ridiculous. Whoa, what about, I get why you'd feel that way, but it acknowledges their feelings, even if you don't love their conclusion.
It's like you're saying, okay, I see you, I hear you, but let's dig a little deeper. It's not manipulation. It's creating that space for real talk.
What about those times, though, when it feels wrong to stay silent? Like you see someone heading for a mistake, a big one.
Well, that's a good one. We're going to get into that right after the break. Don't go anywhere.
And we are back. Before the break, things were getting kind of deep. We were talking about those moments when someone's about to step on a landmine, metaphorically speaking.
Right.
And staying silent feels like the easy way out, but is it always the right thing?
That's the million-dollar question. And these excerpts we're looking at, they have a really interesting take on it. It's not about ignoring those mistakes. It's about, addressing them with, surgical precision.
Ooh, I like that. Surgical precision. Instead of that blunt, hey, you messed up, how about something like, I noticed this thing, wanted to get your take. Could this maybe cause issues down the line?
So it's like you're raising a flag, but you're not sounding the alarm.
Yes. You're inviting them to collaborate, not freaking out.
Right, exactly.
And there's a real art to it. Another strategy. Lead them to the mistake themselves. Questions are key. Like, have you thought about the risks with this approach?
It's like that saying, right? People would rather get advice than instruction. So instead of lecturing them on the mistake, you're letting them have that aha moment themselves.
Much more effective.
Way more effective. But sometimes, even with the best intentions, things can get, heated. How do we stand our ground without it becoming a whole thing?
Now you're talking. That's where communication gets really interesting.
I'm sensing it's not about throwing punches.
Definitely not. Even when you disagree, big time, you can still be firm and respectful. Remember, it's about the problem, not the person. Instead of, you're way off base here, how about, I see your point, but I'm worried this approach might not get us to our goals.
Taking the ego out of the equation, making it about the solution, not who's right or wrong.
Exactly.
But let's be real, there are times when no matter what you do, someone's just not going to budge. It's like
Yeah.
talking to a brick wall, you know?
Oh, I know that wall. And in those moments, recognizing when to back off, that's crucial. Sometimes the best move is to just disengage for a bit, revisit it later.
When everyone's a little calmer.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's not giving up, it's being strategic.
Yeah.
Knowing when to hold them, knowing when to fold them.
Exactly.
Just-
Choosing your battles, saving your energy for what really matters.
Makes sense. It reminds me of this time I had to stand my ground with a colleague. Totally different visions for this project.
Oh, been there.
I tried everything, smoothing things over, finding common ground, stuck.
And how'd you get unstuck?
Well, I finally just had to say, as calmly as I could manage, look, I hear you, I do, but I disagree with this direction. Here's why. And honestly, it was like a turning point.
Interesting.
We didn't magically agree, but we actually started to listen to each other.
Sometimes that's the key. You standing your ground, even if it's uncomfortable, it opens up communication in a way avoiding it never could.
Yeah, I think you're right. But even in those moments when you need to be firm, how do you do it without setting off those defensive alarms?
That's where Carnegie's insights on human nature are so helpful.
Okay, so tell me more.
We'll dive into that right after this quick break.
Okay, back to Carnegie. We were talking about being firm, but not like accidentally starting a war. How do we do that?
Well, it's about more than just the words you use. It's about framing them in a way that connects even when you're disagreeing. Instead of, that'll never work, what if you said, I get what you're going for, but have we thought about the downsides?
Subtle but important difference.
Right. You're still acknowledging their idea, but you're pointing out the potential issues, you know?
Yeah, instead of just shutting it down.
Yeah, instead of just shutting it down.
And you know what else works? Stories.
Oh, stories are powerful.
Think about it. You're meeting resistance to a new idea. Instead of just listing the benefits, tell a story of when it worked before. Boom.
Yeah.
You're not theoretical anymore. You're speaking from experience.
People get that. It's like, oh, this isn't just some idea. It's real. Exactly. But here's the thing. Even with the best communication skills, sometimes it's just not the right time, you know?
Emotions are running high. Or the other person's not in the mood.
It's like trying to have a serious conversation at a rock concert.
Been there.
Right. So in those moments, it's okay to say, I think we both need a minute. Can we come back to this tomorrow?
A strategic timeout. Sometimes that's the best way to keep things from going off the rails.
Exactly.
So it seems like avoiding arguments isn't about being quiet or passive. It's about being smart, choosing when to engage, when to step back,
Yeah.
and knowing how to steer those conversations in a good direction.
Well said. It's realizing that even with disagreements, you can still find that common ground, build those relationships, and actually get better results.
It's not about being right. It's about being effective. Love that.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Our deep dive into the surprisingly complex art of avoiding arguments.
It all comes down to listening, empathy, and communicating clearly and kindly.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. What conversation in your life could benefit from a little more of that skillful approach? Until next time, keep those conversations flowing. And remember, sometimes the most powerful move is the one you don't make.